Ernesto Hayan. I work at the Royal House and Slave Quarters in Medford, Massachusetts. It's a part-time job for me. I work here about twice a month this summer. Slave labor would take place here, but it's really hard to get a feel for what that space looks like. We have like a picture, like an artist's rendition of the space on a wall here. But we don't have that space physically intact, and that's because I think the priorities of like previous curators of the museum was like in a different place. So yeah, the preservation of space is important to me because if you're visiting a place where the space has been effectively preserved, then it's much easier to empathize with those people who live there. So because of that, it's a bit more uncomfortable, and it's hard for us to put ourselves in those shoes. Whereas, by contrast, unfairly, it might be easier for us to imagine the lives of the royals. I think that the work being done by the Royal House and Slave Quarters is important, and I'm glad to be a part of it. It's like weird how it's like implicitly like telling you what the administration thinks American values are. So I'm happy to be in a place that's I don't know if this site has been under any pressure. I haven't heard anything about it, but I'm glad that I'm part of something, and I'm working for something that's pushing against that troubling pattern. Yeah. Okay. Well, my name's Ernesto.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well,
Well,
my name's Ernesto.
I
work at the
Royal House and Slave
Quarters.
Royal
House and
Slave
Slave Quarters. It's a part-time job for me. I work here.
It's a part-time job for me.
About twice a month this summer.
About twice a month this summer.
And then I'm trying to think of questions we already asked you.
Questions
Royal slave quarters.
Like what
preservation here means to you.
Like
what preservation here.
Okay, yeah. So as part of the tour, when we
as
first
part of
enter
the
the
tour,
room we're
when
in,
we
which
first
is
enter the room we're in,
which is the sort of meeting room
of
the sort of meeting
slave
room
quarters
of the slave
didn't
quarters.
always look this way, so right now we're
Didn't
sitting
always
in
look
like
this
a-
way, so right now we're sitting in like
an
a,
open space,
but
an
formerly
open space,
but formerly
there were,
it was actually made up of three rooms.
It was actually made up of 3 rooms
where the work of
preparing food and like storing food
a whole
and,
bunch
like,
of
storing food and
different
whole
kinds
bunch
of
of
slave labor would take place
different kinds
here.
of slave labor would take place here.
But it's really hard to get a feel
it's
for
really
what
hard to
that
get
space looks
a
like.
feel
We have
for
like
what
a
that
picture-
space looks like. We have
like
an
an
artist's
picture
rendition,
like an
of
artist's
that, of the
rendition
space on a wall
of that-
here, of the space on a wall here.
But we don't have that space.
We don't have that space
physically intact.
That's because
I think the
priorities
I
of
think
like previous
the
curators
priorities
of
of
like
museum
previous
was
curators
like in a
of the
different
museum
place.
was like in a different place
contrasts with
the
it
Royal House
contrasts
itself,
with
which
the Royal House itself.
it doesn't have the original furniture.
It doesn't
but
have the
there's been a
original
lot of
furniture,
effort
but
done.
There's
to
been a
go
lot of
through the
effort done.
like the
to
inventory
go through
performed
the
house,
like the inventory
performed
the
the house
1730s
in the
and
1730s,
like what it
looks
and
like in
figure
there.
out,
Like
whereas
what it looks
in
like
here,
in there,
both because of like the way
both
these
because
walls
of
were
like
torn
the
down,
way
because
these walls were
we have
torn
less
down, because
information.
we have less
information
about the lives of the
about
people
the
who were
lives
living and
of
working
the
in here.
people who were
We have
living
less
and working in
information
here.
about that. So
we have less information about that.
So yeah, the preservation of space is
So yeah, the
important to me
preservation of
because,
space is important to me because
if you're
visiting a place
where the space has
visiting a
been
place
effectively
where the space has been effectively
preserved, then it's much easier to
preserved,
empathize
then it's
with
much
those
easier
people
to
who live there,
empathize with those people
who live there.
So because of that, because of that,
It's like
it's a bit more uncomfortable and
it's
it's
a bit
hard
more
for us to put ourselves in those shoes.
for us to put
Whereas
ourselves in
by
those shoes,
contrast,
whereas
unfairly, it might
by
be
contrast,
easier for us to
unfairly,
imagine the
it might be
lives of
easier for us to imagine the lives of
the royals. So this is just sort of how
the royals. So
I
this
guess
is just sort of
history
how
is, I guess history is
like recorded and preserved. It's like
recorded
recorded
and
and
preserved.
It's not just
It's-
like
it's interesting
like
how it's not
documents
just
or
like
something, but it's also
like documents
space.
or something, but it's also
that's
like
where
space. So that's where I stand.
We talked about current administration. We talked about current administration's attempts to rearrange how we consider history. Rearrange how
so
we
what?
consider
How do you
history.
feel about that?
So
Also,
what?
in relation
How do
to
you
this
feel about that?
museum,
Also, in relation to this museum,
Yeah, I think
work
that
being done by
being done
Royal
by,
House and Slave Quarters,
the Royal House and Slave
Quarters
is important, and I'm glad to be a
is
part of it.
important, and
I know that
glad
there's
to
a
be
lot
a
of
part of
stuff
it
going around.
I know that there's a lot of stuff
these days,
going
like
around.
I read
these
something
days,
in the
like,
Times about
I read
how,
something in the Times about
the
how,
Trump administration,
was calling for a review. Was calling for a review
different,
of
different
plaques or like informational
plaques
boards
or
in
like
different
informational boards
in different
public parks, like national parks in the
public
U.S.
parks, like national parks
like
in
a
the US,
review,
like a review
of those signs and seeing if they were
of those signs and seeing if they were
quote-unquote,
like consistent
American
with
values.
quote unquote
So I feel
American
like,
values,
and
So
of
I
course,
feel like,
and of course, the stuff that
of course,
they're
like,
considering to
the
like
stuff
review,
that they're like considering to like
has to do
review
with
like has to do with
indigenous
like,
erasure or
indigenous
like
erasure,
environmental
or,
like climate
like
change,
environmental like climate
So
change stuff.
It's like weird
So
how it's like weird how it's like
implicitly
like
telling you
what
the administration thinks.
what the
American values
administration
are.
thinks.
So
American
I'm happy
values are.
to be in a
So
place.
I'm
that's,
happy to be in a place.
I don't know.
that's-
I don't know if this.
I don't know if this
under any
this
pressure.
site
I
has
haven't
been
heard anything
under
about
any
it,
pressure. I haven't heard anything about it.
I'm glad that I'm part of.
I'm glad that
something,
I'm
and I'm
part
working
of
for
something
that's
working
pushing
for
against that.
something
that's
troubling,
pushing against that
like
troubling
like pattern.
That's all.
No, it's good.
Thank you so much.
No, it's good.
Thank you so much.